Hi, we are live on YouTube for our CS Talks, and today we have a very special guest, Emmanuel Scala, who is right now the SVP of Customer Success at Toast, but I know her so fondly from our work together at Influitive. Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us today,
Thanks,
and
Julie.
great to see you.
Great to see you too.
Yeah. So we haven't had a lot of time to chat in the last few months, and the world has gone a little topsy turvy on us. Um, the CS talks have sort of started with, how are you coping with everything with working from home, COVID, all of that. But last week, a whole other element of political uprising happened. And so what we're calling it right now at Winning by Design is it's business in parallel, right? We can't avoid, we know this is happening. We are aware that it's going on, and we are all individually recognizing it. And some companies are stepping up and doing it, but at the same time, we do have our jobs to do. So I'd love to kick this off with what you're doing and what Toast is doing right now to address Black Lives Matter, 3 months of working from home. And then we're going to get into a little bit more of business as usual and what you're doing there. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great. I listen. I agree with you. It is, I feel like companies can't knee-jerk react to what's going on. We have to figure out how to weave it into a new normal, right? And if we just check a box with a statement or one-time events, then we're not going to actually make change in a systemic way. And change is hard work, and change takes a long time. And we're really committed to doing this in the slow, hard way that it's going to take to make systemic change. Because in the U.S., racism is it's unfortunately been around for a very, 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 very long time, and it's reared its ugly head again. As it has many, many times in the past. And I would say, like, this time, though, something feels a bit different about it. I think that people are fed up. I think that there's persistence to this, and it feels like a deeper sense of commitment to make change. And obviously I'm a little optimistic that that's true. I don't want this to be the flash in the pan nightly news that just turns into something else next week. I want to see, like both private sector and public sector and just the communities at large come together to do something, that's really lasting. And that's the way that we're thinking about it at Toast. I mean, we have a unique platform that, because we serve the restaurant community, and about half of the employees in restaurants are of our minority, and so we have a voice that is really, really, I think, can be really impactful in the way that we bring our community together, our customers and our employees together. And so we're in the early stages of figuring out how we're going to use our voice to make change for the long term. And we're not going to just do the typical press release that says we did these 3 things, now we're done. It's over, right? We're looking at the things that we can do that are like sustainable and that are going to last a really, really long time. And so there's a whole bunch of things in the work, from product changes to our toast.org, which is our foundation, to how we can both give back from a dollars perspective as well as a service perspective. And then the changes that we're going to be making in our organization as well. So more to come on it. But this is something that the whole company is rallying around, making that long lasting change.
Yeah, I think that's a really good perspective. I am seeing a lot of companies issuing out a blog post or a press release, and seems to be the common thing saying, we support it, and putting some dollars behind it, which is a good step. But as you said, like, this is, if we don't want this to be a flash in the pants, we want this to be a long-standing thing, and everyone does. Like, there's this energy around it. It's like, it feels like now is the right time to hopefully remove racism from our DNA as a society, and making something really interesting that I'm sure you can't share about right now, but maybe you can, give as a little a little teaser, or we'll just have to visit with you again. But like product changes, that intrigued me a lot, right? So
Yeah, and those are things that are like systemic, right? Like, what can we do, to act? And there are, I mean, given our industry, given that we're in the food business, right? And that our products, are both the food employees, restaurant employees interact with our products, but as well as consumers do. We just have we have the ability to do something that many things that I think will make a really long term impact.
yeah,
And so that's
that's
our focus is less. I mean, of course, we are also making a statement about. Our CEO has released a statement, generally that looks similar to others, with the exception of, this behind the scenes is a lot of work to do long sustaining programs.
yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what falls out in the next few weeks to come. Um, as I said, this is business in parallel. So I do want to shift gears a little bit because you've done some incredible things. Something I find really interesting about your journey is that, when I met you, you were like hardcore VP of sales, poser, like, bring in the logos, let's run down the pipeline. And so,
Still am.
right?
Just different pipelines.
Yeah, no. Well, so this is the interesting thing, right? So when we worked together, something I learned from you was this concept around CS needs to have a very diligent pipeline similar to sales, and we need to track it the same way. And that's something that I'm doing with the companies that I work with now. I'm like, let's figure out those stages and let's track them, and let's figure out what needs to happen in those stages. Um, and so I'd love to hear what you've implemented. And you're like, I love that you have the whole CS team. So what have you done that, and tying in your experience as a head of sales that might be different from what other CS leaders do today?
Yeah. So CS at Toast is everything post sale. So basically, it starts when the contract is signed, and then for the lifetime of the customer. And so it first starts with our implementation team and our implementation processes and our onboarding teams. And that is almost parallel to a sales funnel, right? That our TAM is just not the universe of prospects. Our TAM is whatever sales, gets to us. And then we have to we call it backlog instead of pipeline, but it's essentially a pipeline. We have to take that backlog and we have to convert it. And we have to convert that backlog through stages, and we need to measure the velocity through the stages, right? We need to understand where the bottlenecks are at any point in the stages. We need to understand what falls out of the funnel, how often it falls out of the funnel. We need to track activity, through the stages in the same way that you would a pipeline. Because at the end of that is what we call a go live, which is essentially a restaurant that's up and running on Toast. And that's when, for us, revenue starts, the revenue clock starts ticking. And so velocity through that process is really, really, really important, not just for us, but for our customers. Nobody wants to sign a contract and then not, be able to leverage and go, leverage the benefit of the technology that they just bought. They want to go live quickly so they can serve their guests. And especially now when restaurants have to completely reinvent the way that they are operating, and they don't have time to wait to get their digital ordering all set up, to be able to figure out how to do takeout and curbside and all the things, to figure out how to do how to set up new menus because they have to rethink their menu. So really tracking that funnel is probably one of the first things. And we implemented a whole bunch of tools in Salesforce to make sure that we could look at all the things that you would look at in sales. So stage conversion, time in each stage, where we're seeing bottlenecks, velocity through each stage, and we track things like age of the backlog, velocity, time to go live, productivity, how many hours each stage takes. How do we reduce that, and then we can put initiatives against that. Like, this stage takes a long time. How can we partner with product to improve maybe some of the tools? Or some of the interface so that stage we can reduce the cycle time on that stage.
I want to pause for 1 second because you
Yeah.
said something that is critical and that I don't think we do enough in CS. So you use the metrics along your funnel
Yep.
to help determine what products you focus on because you can tie it directly to revenue.
Exactly.
So, I just saw a post in a CS forum discussing like, how do we get a better relationship with product? And it's like, well, have them listen to customer calls and track which customers make these requests. That is all, that's all, quality, that's just, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, time and moment.
Right.
And as opposed to real data that ties to time and revenue to real impact for your organization, nothing's going to get product on side like that. So I think that's
No, and I mean, it's all about metrics that show that drive revenue, right? And it doesn't have to be new revenue. So, on the onboarding side, it is new revenue. But once it's live, once a customer is live, and now we're in the vast majority of the length of the customer journey, you can still do that, right? So we do things, and so instead of now looking at stages for onboarding and what we can do to improve that with our product, we now look at things like support tickets. So we'll look at our support tickets, and we'll say which tickets have the highest handle time. And so, things with the highest handle time, right, means that, taking our agents the longer, right? Which of the things that are the highest ticket counts in general, right? What are the types of tickets that don't get resolved easily, that may need to get transferred to a more senior person? And all that is fed through a voice of customer process that we have set up to partner with product, so that they really understand where the friction with our customers, right? And so where because that not only does it save cost if we can reduce, if we can reduce the tickets, et cetera, but it also actually will, it could result in more upsells, it could result in stickier customers, it can result in adoption. So we partner with product that way as well. And more recently, we've been able to also get instrument the product in a way to show adoption, not just not just the tickets and the things that go wrong, but actually who's using what's the engagement in the product, what's the adoption in the product, where are things not seeing engagement or adoption, and that data is also going to product to help make improvements.
Yeah. Oh man, we could just spend all our time talking.
I know we could.
I want to get to, so we've talked about onboarding, we've talked about support. Let's talk a little bit about your CSMs and your expansion team, because you're responsible for all that revenue as well.
Yep.
So, what does that look like for your organization?
Yeah, so we call it an RSM, which is a Restaurant Success Manager. And our RSMs, they have relationships with our top accounts. So not every single account is assigned an RSM. The accounts that are not assigned an RSM go through care, which is our support team essentially, for the same experience, but more on a one-to-many basis. And we partner really, really closely with customer marketing to make sure that it's a personalized experience and not just an inbound call center-y type of experience.
Do you use any tools to help you manage that at all?
So right now it's all homegrown. We are considering a couple tools to do that, but right now it's all homegrown. We've really, like I said earlier, we sort of instrumented our data and our product to look at adoption, to look at different trends, to look at leading indicators of either troubling signs or positive signs. And then we use that to trigger certain campaigns, either through email, and we'll use Marketo for an email campaign, or in-app, and we're transitioning to Pendo right now. So we're in the middle of a Pendo launch, and we're seeing some really good success with very, very targeted in-app, again, based on what we're seeing in the data. And so that can, and then we have an e-commerce platform and others. So we've instrumented this system that basically for upsells, for potential churn risks, for best practices, adoption, it's all really automated between the data. We have a BI team who helps, look at the data. So it's a partnership between customer marketing, BI, and CS to do that at scale. And about 95% of our customers on a volume basis don't have an RSM. So it's pretty significant. And so it's important that we get this right and that the customer still feels like they have personalized support without the human and doing it. Now there's, they have inbound care. So if there's an issue, they can call care. And so there is a human, and of course we have escalation paths just like anybody else does. And, if we need to, but yeah, our focus has really been on kind of instrumenting all of that, that data and outreach in an automated way.
It sounds like you're doing a lot of things right, and I'm curious to see how it goes, once this launch happens, to see if you help see what do obviously you're tracking a retention number on the for the 95% of customers who aren't getting that one-to-one care. What are some other metrics that you're tracking?
Yeah, so a bunch of stuff. So on the like at risk, in the sort of at risk bucket, we look at things like, do they have, higher than the normal number of support tickets coming in? We look at certain ticket types that we know are a little bit more triggering. So we deep dive into those. We also have a way for the care team to flag if a customer either threatened to churn or was angry for any reason, so that we can put extra resources on that, and so we can track that as well. Then we track things like attach rate, so for all of our all the products that we can upsell, so we know which customers have which products and which customers don't have which products. And we're currently working on with BI on this concept called next best product. And it's essentially based on other customers who are like them. So sort of like a lookalike concept, right? So other customers that are like them demographically, if other customers have had success with our products that they don't currently own, then what's the next best product for them? And what we're doing is that's going to get served up to care. So imagine a customer calls into the customer care team because they have a question on their bill, or they have a how-to question. The care representative can answer their question, and then before hanging up can say, hey, this will get pushed to the care person, right? There'll be something that says, this is the next best product, and here's why, and give them the scripts and the things that they need, so that they can say, looks like you have not yet, you're not using Toast delivery service, right? Did you know that you can save a lot of money through Toast delivery service versus using the third-party delivery service who charge you fees, right? This is a fixed cost, et cetera, et cetera. Would you like more information on Toast delivery service? I can make sure I get you that. And then we can send them videos to, demos, and then a link to e-commerce, so they can just go fulfill and buy the module themselves.
Totally. So product-led growth post sales.
It's product-led growth post sales. It's exactly what it is. And we have to, because we're SMB. So we have a huge volume of customers. It's not cost effective to put an RSM onto every single one of those customers. And it doesn't, and nor do our customers need it. If we can give them a really amazing digital experience, like you get with the Zappos, or, like you get with an Airbnb, if we can give them an amazing digital experience, then, they don't necessarily need to have the one-to-one touch, right?
What we're learning right now is that even on the enterprise side, where you do tend to have a dedicated, whether it's a salesperson or a CS person, we're actually seeing a shift away from that personal, meeting. And it's like, if you can serve up a video that's really relevant and personalized, so you have like these, moments that happen where you don't need to like lock your day in and things like that, it just makes the whole process way more custom and seamless.
Yeah. And you know what? And the reality is, especially now, that people's work hours are shifting, right? Because now there's different demands. So you have your kids are home, and you're home, and things are different. And so you may not be able to work, in a traditional 9 to 5. You may, and so you may not be able to attend that session that was held at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. And so you need to give customers the ability to get the resources they need when they need it. And it's especially true of any SMB, where our customers are owner operators. They are juggling 10,000 things at once. They can't necessarily commit to being available at 11 o'clock.
The best time, speaking of, that my husband owned a restaurant for 9 years. The best time to catch him was like 11 p.m. on
Yes.
a weeknight because he's waiting for the kitchen to close.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so we had so that's how we really think about digitizing everything, and giving access to our customers when they want access. So, and really about how we do things one to many, right? Is pretty critical. And then they get the one-to-one attention when they really need it with our 24/7 care.
So, you've talked about a lot of things that you're doing to scale, and Toast, you're had an amazing round. You are scaling at a speed unlike many other companies. Like, it's unbelievably exciting. You've talked about a lot of things you're doing to scale. So, I'd love to know if you're doing anything else, and also, like, would you have done anything, this is more for people who are about to get to that stage, right? Because what we notice is what you're doing prior to your Series B, as soon as you hit your Series B, you have cash, you're trying to your hockey stick's going up even higher. What would you have what advice would you give to yourself to prep yourself better?
Yeah, I would actually say that the stuff that we're doing now, I wish we'd done a little earlier, right? It's harder the longer you wait to automate some of your processes and to try and imagine this process when it's 10, 15, 20, 100, 200x what it is today. The harder it's going to be to implement it later. It's so much easier to implement automation at Series B than it is, where we are at Series E. And so I wish we had done some of this earlier. Right? And I think that was, that was probably the one regret is we historically had masked some inefficiencies in our processes and with people. And instead, because when you have the capital, it's easy. It's just the easiest, thing to do. It's so easy to hire, especially if we have a good culture and we have a good employee brand. It's just easy to hire, and it takes a lot longer to do, to really focus on the product and really focus on automation. And I wish we had invested in that earlier. So that would be my advice: is if you're finding yourself in a position where your humans are just filling process gaps and product gaps, really, even though it's easy and it solves the short-term problem, you got to resist the urge to do it that way, because unwinding from that is really hard. I would also say, it's really important to stick to your guns. Big change takes a long time for everybody to adopt, especially an SMB customer. And if you got to resist the urge just because it's hard, right, to make that change, you got to resist the urge to just go back to what's natural, and or what your customers are demanding. So it's just when we shifted our RSM strategy from one that historically had covered a bigger percentage base of the customers to now only covering a much smaller percentage of customers, it was really hard when an escalation would come through, or an angry customer would come through, or a churn that would come through, to continue to say, please work with customer care, please work with customer care, please work with customer care. When you know that you could probably grab a few people and solve the problem right there. But that is not, every time we do that, we are taking a step backwards and not getting closer to our goal of trying to drive, behavioral change. And so that would be my advice for people doing it for the first time.
Yeah. And that advice actually, is good for any behavioral change, right? If you've done the analysis and this is what needs to happen, the number of CSMs who constantly say, I want to be more strategic. It's well, then stop doing the day-to-day thing and follow the process outlined, and you will get there. But we're often get pulled to that. I can just do this. But
yeah, you can. And I think it's really important that people that to build empathy with your sales teams and with your product teams, right? To document those non-value added activities that the CSMs do and really document what they are, how long they take, and what they're taking away from, right? And, and do an analysis that says, okay, we spend this many hours doing these non-value added things, and we could translate those number of hours into these value added things and strategic things that we're not currently doing, right? And that can result in, an increase in NPS or or an increase in net revenue or a reduction in churn or whatever it might, or an increase in referrals, right? Sometimes in early stage companies, new business talks, it's just the reality, right? And so I often like to frame the benefits of investing CS as in a go-to-market way, right? Versus only in a customer experience way, especially with young companies, because, in early stage companies, new businesses came.
Yeah. And this is why I think you've been so effective at, running this, in a very well-oiled machine, it seems like, because you think in those terms. And, I often joke, you mentioned NPS and I have a
like a love-hate relationship, by the way.
I have a bit of a hate relationship because, here's my thing with NPS, right? You talked about a whole other, scope of metrics, right? Referrals that drive new business.
Yep.
You have retention revenue, you have expansion revenue, all of these things. And I think about and put yourself back in the head of sales. Imagine you're running a sales team. It's like, would you ever survey your prospects to say, hey, would you refer us or not? And then report on a happiness score? Your CEO would be like, show me your revenue number.
Right.
And so for so long, CS is, reporting this number to the board. It's like, we're not taken seriously because we're not showing the revenue numbers.
Yeah, but if you can tie it. So one of the things that I did, because we still use NPS. I still think it's, and we could have literally a whole conversation on NPS, because I agree with you. I'm not a huge fan at all, but we use it. And I think the only reason why I'm still using it is a couple years ago, I had the BI team do an analysis to see what NPS was correlated to. Turns out it's not correlated to churn, which is weird. You'd think it would be, but it's not. At least for us, it wasn't, right? And this may be just an SMB thing. But detractors were actually not more likely to churn than promoters. Weird, but true. So it wasn't, but it was highly correlated with referrals. So that's revenue, right? And so now there is a connection between NPS and revenue, right? And so
you can actually tie it to people who did referrals.
Yes, we could actually say that promoters were significantly more likely to do referrals than passives or detractors. And so now there is actually a go-to-market benefit in investing in NPS type things. Right.
That's interesting. So, I'm just going to follow up. I'll lean into this for 1 second.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, we could talk about this forever. This is a fun topic.
I know. So if your NPS, if your promoters are more likely to refer, why not just ask your customers to refer and skip the survey, skip that touch point?
And we do. We have a whole referral, pretty, like an open book referral process and customers get compensated for referrals. So we do. It's just a way. For me, it was a way to basically tie investment in NPS to investment in customer success things that drive NPS that then have a correlation to referrals. So we also know, and maybe this is to close the loop a little bit. We also know, at least for our customers, that response time and resolution of anytime they reach out to us for anything is highly correlated to NPS. So when you fill that loop, if we don't invest in getting them answers very, very quickly to whether it's they want to do an upsell or they have a question or they want a best practice tip, whatever that might be, right? If we're not responsive as a company, then NPS goes down. When NPS goes down, referrals go down. When referrals go down, sales go down, right? And so therefore you have to invest in responsiveness, right? And you can invest in that through people or through technology.
So you're using NPS almost as like a medium to be able to
it's a platform for me.
Yeah.
It's a platform for me to get commitment from the rest of the organization to invest in things that are going to drive customer happiness, because I know that that ultimately will drive revenue.
Right. And I think the interesting thing is that you've tied NPS in with, actions that, and interactions and speed time and other things that you track, as well as outcomes like that have to tie into revenue. And so it's like this sort of indicator, it's like an indicator that you're using that you then tie other results to. And it doesn't actually, without all of your BI and your data analysis, it would almost be, we probably wouldn't be nearly as useful.
Exactly. And I mean, we also, we don't just do the biannual NPS survey. We're, we get thousands of results a month because it's it's in-app, it's ongoing,
Yeah.
and so it's different cohorts, and I won't get into the details, but we get a big enough of an N that we can see it move, like really a week on week, we can see it move, and we can correlate it to things that, if we had a phone outage or something, like all of a sudden, boom, it goes down and then it comes right back up. So it's correlated.
Yeah, that's really insightful. Like our 30 minutes have flown by. I would love to stay and chat with you longer, but I'm sure you have a bazillion things to do.
This was fun.
This was really fun. We need to do this more often, either live or not.
Hi, YouTube people out there. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do a private next time, maybe.
Sounds good. We'll just do like a call from our paddleboard.
Yes, that sounds great. Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your insights. It was great to see you.